The twin suns of VeltharaPrime burned high above the arena. Their light poured down on blood-stained sand and rows of shouting alien spectators. The air trembled with the sound of drums, metal, and voices hungry for violence. For the Vraxian people, this was not just entertainment. It was tradition. The Trial of Beasts. Every season, warriors and captured enemies fought here to prove their worth. Strength was everything to the Vraxians. Mercy was weakness. And fear was death. Today, one of the cages held something unusual. Not a hulking alien, not a cybernetic beast, but a man, a human. He stood quietly, bare-chested, wrists bruised from the metal restraints that had only just been removed. His short dark hair was dusty, his blue eyes calm. His name was Captain Elias Ward, a soldier of the Terran Expeditionary Corps. He had been captured 2 weeks ago during a border skirmish near Vraxian space. His crew was dead, his ship destroyed. Now he was the next to die. The gates opened with a heavy clang. The guards pushed him forward into the light of the arena. Tens of thousands of eyes turned toward the lone human stepping onto the sand. Laughter and jeers rolled through the stands. To them he looked fragile, small compared to the massive Vraxians who stood nearly 8 feet tall. The announcer's voice boomed through the speakers. Behold a Terran, a creature from a backwater world of weaklings and farmers. Today he faces the Karath beast slayer of 12 challengers. Let us see how long the fragile human lasts. The gate opposite Elias opened, and the creature roared into the light. It was half flesh, half metal, with claws longer than swords and a face twisted with fury. Elias did not flinch. He took a slow breath, the air burning his lungs. His mind was quiet. Years of training whispered to him, observe, measure, act. He looked around. The ground was uneven. There were small cracks where the sand was thin. The creature was heavy. That might slow it down. He flexed his fingers. No weapon, no armor. Just his body. The beast charged. The sound was thunderous. Metal pounding sand, claws slicing air. The crowd screamed. Elias moved at the last second. He rolled under the beast's first strike, the claws missing his head by inches. He came up behind it and slammed his elbow into the joint between metal and flesh. A spark flew. The crowd gasped. The beast roared again, twisting, swiping. Elias jumped back, barely avoiding a blow that could have torn him apart. He was breathing hard now, but his eyes were sharp. Every motion of the beast revealed something, its rhythm, its blind spots. He waited. When the creature lunged again, Elias sidestepped and grabbed one of its arms, using its momentum to twist the joint. The creature stumbled, metal screeching. Elias drove his fist into a soft spot near the neck again and again, until black blood sprayed across the sand. It tried to crush him, but he ducked low, caught its leg, and pulled with all his strength. The beast fell. The crowd was no longer laughing. They were shouting now, half in excitement, half in disbelief. Elias climbed onto the creature's back, found a loose piece of metal armor, and ripped it free. He used the sharp edge like a blade, jamming it into the beast's skull. With one final roar, the monster went still. Silence filled the arena. The human stood panting, sweat and blood dripping from his face. He looked around at the thousands of alien faces staring down at him, and he did not smile. He just breathed, slowly, calmly. Then he dropped the metal shard and raised one hand. Not in victory, but in defiance. The crowd erupted high above. In the royal box, Princess Zira of Velthara watched in stunned silence. She had seen hundreds of battles, thousands of deaths. None had moved her, but this was different. The human had fought without armor, without weapons, and without fear. Every movement had purpose. Every strike was controlled, not wild. And when he stood over the dead beast, he didn't roar or gloat like her people would. He simply looked ready for the next fight. There was something magnetic about that calmness. Something unsettling. Her attendant, a tall female Vraxian, noticed her expression. "Princess," she said softly, "shall I order his execution?" "The human has served his purpose." Zira didn't answer immediately. Her golden eyes stayed fixed on the human. She leaned forward slightly, watching him as guards moved in to chain him again. He didn't resist. He just looked straight ahead, his face unreadable. "He fought with his bare hands," Zira murmured. "Against a Karath." "Yes, my lady," the attendant replied. "Humans are stubborn creatures, I've heard." But Zira interrupted her, voice quiet but firm. "I want him." Her attendant blinked. "You want him, princess?" Zira's lips curved into a faint, dangerous smile. Yes, bring him to me. Alive. Back in the holding chambers below the arena, Elias sat against the wall, wrists bound once more. His muscles ached, but his mind was alert. He had survived. For now. 2 guards entered, both towering Vraxians in armor. One spoke in a deep growl. On your feet, human. The princess has requested your presence. Elias frowned. Princess? They didn't answer. They hauled him up and pushed him through the corridor. The smell of metal, dust, and alien perfume filled the air. As he walked, Elias thought of his fallen squad. He had promised them he would get them home. Now he was in chains on an alien world, walking toward a ruler he didn't know, but he kept his back straight. If he was going to die, he would do it with dignity. The doors opened to a wide chamber decorated with shining metal and blue crystal. At the center sat Princess Zira, draped in silver armor that glimmered under the light. Her skin was a pale violet hue, her eyes golden like molten fire. She studied him for a long moment, saying nothing. Elias met her gaze. He didn't bow. A faint smile touched her lips. You're not afraid. Would it help? Elias replied quietly. Her attendants shifted uncomfortably, but Zira raised a hand. Tell me, human, why did you fight like that? You had no weapon. You were surrounded. Most would have begged for mercy. Elias's voice was calm. Where I come from, we don't beg, we adapt. We survive. Survive, she repeated softly, as if testing the word. Is that what drives your kind? He looked her straight in the eye. It's what keeps us human. For the first time in her life, Princess Zira felt something unfamiliar, a spark of admiration. The human before her was small compared to her warriors, yet his spirit felt immense. She stood, stepping closer. You are different from the others we've captured, she said. Most cry. Most break, but you fought like a storm. Elias didn't respond. You will not be executed, Zira declared finally. From now on, you will stay under my protection. Elias narrowed his eyes. Protection or captivity? She smiled again, faint but sincere. Perhaps both. As the guards led him away to his new quarters, the princess watched him go. Something deep inside her stirred. Curiosity, admiration, maybe even something more dangerous. In the silence that followed, she whispered to herself, he fights like no creature I have ever seen, and he does not fear death. Then a quieter, almost private whisper escaped her lips. I want him to be mine. The drums outside began again, echoing through the halls. A new chapter had begun, one that would shake the very heart of the Vraxian Empire. The human had survived the arena, but soon he would face a far greater challenge, the heart of a warrior princess. The next morning, the palace of DEATHWORLD was unusually silent. The rumors had spread across every hall and courtyard. The princess had claimed the human. For the Vraxians, that was unthinkable. A princess choosing a captive from a weak world, it insulted everything they believed in. But Princess Zira didn't care. The more others whispered, the more her curiosity grew. Elias Ward stood in a new chamber now. Not a prison cell, but not freedom either. The walls were carved from black stone, smooth and shining. A small window looked out over the golden city. He had food, clean clothes, and a bed, but there were still guards at the door, armed and silent. He had been given a simple gray tunic, though the bruises from his arena fight were still visible on his arms. He washed, ate, and waited. His mind kept circling back to one question. Why him? Why did that alien princess want him alive? Hours passed before the door opened. 2 guards stepped aside and Princess Zira entered. She was dressed in lighter armor this time, silver and black, her long white hair braided down her back. The air around her seemed to shimmer with authority. Elias stood automatically, his military instincts still alive despite captivity. You look different when you're not covered in blood, she said, her voice calm but sharp. Elias met her eyes. You look the same, still in command. A small, unexpected smile appeared on her face. You speak boldly, human. Most of my soldiers wouldn't dare answer me that way. I'm not your soldier, he replied. Her smile widened slightly. No, you're something else. She moved closer, studying him. Tell me, Captain Elias Ward of Terra, how did you learn to fight like that? You used no weapon, yet you defeated one of our finest beasts. He shrugged. Training, experience, and a bit of luck. Luck, she repeated, tasting the word like it was strange to her. No, I think it was something more. She circled around him like a predator studying new prey. When I saw you fight, I saw no fear. You were calm, almost detached. You didn't fight for survival. You fought for purpose. Why? Elias hesitated for a moment. Then he said quietly, because I don't fight to live. I live to fight for what's right. My people don't give up, no matter the odds. Sira's golden eyes softened. And what is right, human? Freedom, he said simply. That word hit her harder than she expected. Freedom. Among her people, there was only duty. The strong ruled. The weak obeyed. Freedom was chaos, or so she'd always been taught. She stepped back. You're strange, Elias Ward. He smirked faintly. You captured me, remember? You can't complain now. She laughed, softly, almost musically. The sound surprised both of them. Later that day, Zira brought him to the Royal Hall of Conquest, a massive chamber filled with holograms of Vraxian victories across the stars. Statues of warlords stood in perfect formation, each one carved from the bones of fallen enemies. This, she said, gesturing around them, is our legacy. My people conquered over 1,000 worlds. Every victory adds to our honor. Elias looked around slowly. How many lives did that honor cost? Her expression hardened. We are warriors. To conquer is our way. And what happens when there's nothing left to conquer? He asked quietly. She turned to him sharply. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then instead of anger, she sighed. You question everything. It's infuriating. Or maybe you've just never been questioned before, he said. Zira gave him a look, half warning, half amusement. You're lucky I find your defiance interesting. He raised an eyebrow. Interesting isn't usually what keeps people alive. Perhaps you'll be the exception, she said. Come, I want to show you something else. She led him outside onto a balcony high above the city. From here, the world of Velthara glowed like molten metal, shining towers, airships, and massive floating arenas. The wind carried the smell of spice and smoke. Below, thousands of Vraxians moved through the streets, tall and powerful, their armor gleaming under the suns. Elias noticed how everyone bowed when they saw the royal banners. No one questioned orders. No one seemed free. Beautiful, isn't it? Zyra said softly. Our empire stretches across 5 systems. Every race we meet either serves or dies. Elias folded his arms. And where's the honor in that? Her head turned sharply. Honor is survival. Maybe, he said. But survival without compassion makes you hollow. She stared at him, really stared. For the first time, she had no immediate answer. Her people had always told her compassion was weakness. But when this fragile human said it, it didn't sound weak. It sounded strong. Tell me about your world, she said finally. Earth? Elias looked at the horizon. It's messy, loud, crowded, but it's ours. We fight each other, sure, but when something threatens all of us, we stand together. We don't give up easily. Sira's voice softened. Your people sound chaotic. He smiled faintly. They are. But chaos isn't always bad. It means we're alive. That night, Zira sat alone in her private chamber, replaying their conversation in her mind. The way he spoke, direct, fearless, honest, it was nothing like her own kind. The Vraxians valued obedience and dominance, but Elias had no fear even when speaking to royalty, and that made her curious. And uneasy. Her father, High Warlord Thalrock, had already heard of her actions. His voice thundered across the palace when he summoned her earlier that evening. You bring shame to our line. A human in the royal hall? Have you lost your sense of pride? Zira had stood tall. He is no ordinary human, father. He fought with strength worthy of a Vraxian. Strength? Her father growled. He is a pet, an animal. You are a princess. You do not bring dirt into the throne room. She met his glare without flinching. Perhaps the dirt has more honor than the throne. That had silenced even the guards. Her father's face darkened, but he dismissed her with a wave. Enjoy your toy, daughter. When you grow bored, I will see his head displayed in the arena. Zira had left the throne chamber trembling with anger, but beneath that anger was something else. Determination. She didn't fully understand why, but she knew this human didn't deserve to die. He was more than they believed. Days passed. Zira continued to visit Elias, often bringing him books, food, and questions. Always questions. How do humans lead their armies without fear? What do you do when you lose someone you love? Why do you keep fighting when the odds are impossible? Each time, Elias answered with the same steady tone, because giving up means letting someone else decide who you are. The more she learned, the more she realized something terrifying. Her people had conquered 1,000 worlds, but none had their strength. Not real strength, the kind that came from within. One morning, Zira entered his chamber holding a small metallic sphere. "This is a memory crystal," she explained. "It records the moments of a warrior's life. Would you show me your memories, human?" Elias hesitated. "I don't think your people would understand them." "Try me." He took the sphere. For a moment he focused, and images flickered inside it. Battles. Fire. A damaged Terran ship. His comrades fighting and dying beside him. A small hologram of Earth. Blue oceans, white clouds, green lands. Zira watched in silence. When the images faded, she spoke softly. "So that's your home. That's our world," Elias said quietly. "Every fight we take, every loss we bear, it's for that. For the people who can't fight for themselves." She looked down at the crystal. "You carry your world in your heart." He nodded. "That's all a soldier ever can." Later that evening, Zira dismissed her guards and sat across from Elias in the quiet of his chamber. "You're different, Elias," she said softly. "No chains, no rank, and yet you stand taller than my warriors. You question everything. You don't fear me." "I don't see a tyrant," he said calmly. "I see someone who wants to understand." Her voice lowered. "My people would call that weakness. Then your people don't understand strength." Their eyes met, golden and blue, alien and human. The air between them grew still. For the first time in her life, Princess Zira felt something she couldn't name. Not dominance, not command, but respect. "Elias," she said quietly, "you should know. My father won't let this continue." The council already whispers. "They see you as a threat," he shrugged. "I've been a threat my whole life," she smiled, and a small, genuine smile. "You really don't know when to be afraid, do you?" "No," he said. "Fear wastes time." When she left his chamber that night, she stood for a long moment outside the door, staring at her reflection in the dark glass wall. For the first time, she questioned the things she'd always believed. Were the Vraxians truly the strongest race in the galaxy, or had they just forgotten what real strength looked like? As the night wind blew through the palace halls, she whispered to herself, "He fights with his hands, but his real weapon is his heart." And deep inside, a decision began to form, one that would soon shake the Empire to its core. The human had changed something in her, and Princess Zira, warrior of Velthara, knew there would be no turning back. Days turned into weeks inside the shining walls of the Vraxian palace. Captain Elias Ward was still a prisoner, but everything had changed. His cell was now a private room, his chains replaced by guards at the door. Princess Zira visited him every day, always asking questions about humanity, Earth, and the way humans lived and fought. At first, Elias answered with caution, but over time, he started to see something in her, curiosity, honesty, and a strange warmth he hadn't expected from a warrior princess of an empire built on blood. They were two very different beings, from two very different worlds. Yet somehow they understood each other. The Whispering Palace. The palace of Velthara was beautiful, but beneath that beauty, it hid poison. Servants and nobles whispered behind closed doors. The Council of Warlords, powerful leaders who ruled beside the Emperor, did not like what they saw. The princess is distracted. She treats the human like an equal. This dishonors the bloodline. Their voices reached the Emperor's throne room. The mighty High Warlord Thalrock, Zira's father, heard every word. He was furious. "Summon my daughter," he commanded. "It is time she remembers what it means to be Vraxian." The confrontation, Zira entered the throne room with her head held high. Her father sat upon a seat carved from obsidian and the bones of conquered kings. His crimson armor gleamed under the light. "Father," she said calmly. He didn't return the greeting. "You bring shame upon this house," Thalrock growled. "A princess of the strongest race in the galaxy, obsessed with a creature from a dying planet." Zira's eyes flashed. "He is not a creature. He is a soldier. He fought with more courage than most of your generals." "Enough." Thalrock slammed his metal fist against the throne. "He is human, weak, small, and unworthy of even your gaze. You will end this nonsense now." Zira stood tall, refusing to bow. You call him weak because you fear what he represents. Fear? He barked. I fear nothing. Then prove it, she said coldly. Let him fight again. Not against a beast, against your best warrior. If he loses, execute him. But if he wins, you will see that humanity is not as small as you think. Her father's lips curved into a cruel smile. Very well, daughter. Tomorrow, at dawn, the human dies in the arena. And when he falls, perhaps your fascination will die with him. The last night that night, Zyra went to Elias's room. The guards hesitated but stepped aside when she glared at them. Elias looked up as she entered. You look angry, he said. I am, she admitted. My father has arranged another fight. He means to kill you. Elias nodded slowly. I expected that. You shouldn't have to fight for their amusement again, she said, pacing. You've proved your worth. He smiled faintly. Your people don't see it that way. To them, I'm still just prey. Zyra stopped in front of him. Then run, tonight I can help you escape. Elias stood, his blue eyes steady. And what about you? Your father will brand you a traitor. I don't care, she said firmly. You don't belong in chains. You deserve freedom. He looked at her for a long moment. Why are you doing this, Zyra? Her voice softened. Because when I look at you, I see something I thought didn't exist. Honor without cruelty. Strength without hate. My people have forgotten what that means, Elias smiled gently. And what if I told you I'm not as perfect as you think? Then I would say, she whispered, you're still better than most of us. For a moment, silence filled the room, heavy, uncertain, and warm. Then Elias spoke quietly. If we're doing this, we do it smart. I don't run without a plan. Zyra nodded. Then let's make one. The escape hours before dawn, the palace was quiet. The guards at the arena prepared for the coming battle, unaware of what was about to happen. Zyra moved through the dark corridors in a black cloak, her boots silent on the polished floors. Elias walked beside her, dressed in stolen armor that covered his human features. They reached a sealed gate, leading to the tunnel network beneath the palace, ancient passages once used by the first Phryxian kings. Elias pressed his hand against the panel. You sure this leads out? Zyra nodded. It opens near the shipyard. From there you can take a transport and... She stopped as a noise echoed down the corridor. Footsteps. Guards. Elias muttered. They ducked behind a pillar as two armored soldiers appeared, their voices low. Patrol duty again? The warlord doesn't trust his daughter around the human. Elias glanced at Zyra. She nodded. Together they moved fast and silent. Elias struck the first guard in the throat, catching him before he fell. Zyra disarmed the second with a twist of her wrist and hit him across the head with her own weapon. Both guards fell without a sound. Zyra looked at him, impressed. You really do move like lightning, he smirked. Earth's military training. Fast and quiet. She entered a code into the panel. The tunnel door slid open with a hiss. Let's go. They stepped into the darkness, the sound of their footsteps echoing faintly through the stone halls. The chase. They had almost reached the end of the tunnel when alarms blared across the city. Red lights flashed. A robotic voice thundered from the palace speakers. Warning. Security breach detected. The human prisoner is missing. All units intercept, Zyra cursed softly. They know. Elias grabbed her hand. Keep moving! They burst out of the tunnel onto a high platform overlooking the glowing city. Sirens wailed in the distance. Patrol drones swooped through the air, scanning every street. There. Zyra pointed toward a line of sleek black ships in the docking bay. We can take one, they ran. Blaster fire streaked through the air behind them. Elias grabbed a fallen soldier's rifle and fired back, hitting a drone cleanly through its sensor. Nice shot, Zyra said breathlessly. Lucky shot, he replied, but there was a grin on his face. They reached the nearest ship, a small Phryxian scout vessel. Zyra entered a rapid sequence on the control panel, overriding the lock. The hatch opened. Elias motioned for her to go first, but she hesitated. You don't have to stay, she said. If they catch me, they'll execute me. I'm not leaving you behind, Elias said firmly. We started this together. Her golden eyes softened. You're either brave or foolish. Usually both, he said, helping her into the ship. The final barrier, just as they began to lift off, the hangar doors slammed shut. A voice echoed from above, and deep, powerful, and angry. Zyra! She froze. Her father stood on the upper balcony, flanked by armed guards. His crimson armor glowed under the hangar lights. "You dare betray your people for a human?" Thalrock roared. Elias stepped forward. "She didn't betray anyone. You did the moment you chose power over honor." Thalrock's eyes blazed. "Silence, insect." He turned to his daughter. "This is your last chance, Zyra. Step away from him and I will forgive this madness." Zyra looked up, her voice calm but strong. "No, father. You taught me to respect strength, and today I stand beside the strongest being I've ever met." Thalrock's fury shook the air. "Then you are no daughter of mine." He raised his arm. "Fire!" A storm of plasma bolts erupted across the hangar. Elias grabbed Zyra, diving behind the ship for cover. The metal floor burned from the impact. "We can't take off while they're firing." Zyra shouted. "Then we fight!" Elias yelled back. He emerged from cover, firing the stolen rifle with deadly precision. Every shot hit its mark. Drones exploded. Guards fell. Even Thalrock took a step back as the human advanced through the smoke like a force of nature. When his rifle overheated, Elias dropped it and charged at the nearest guard, taking him down with a single punch. Zyra joined the fight, her twin blades flashing in the light. Together they fought back to back, a perfect rhythm of human instinct and alien skill. The sight was unreal, a human and a Vraxian princess standing against an entire army. The flight Zyra jumped back into the pilot's seat. "Elias, get in." He dove inside as plasma fire hit the hull. The ship's engines roared to life, shaking the hangar. Thalrock raised his weapon for one final shot, shouting, "You cannot run forever, traitors." Elias looked back through the window. "Watch us." The ship blasted through the hangar doors, tearing into the sky. As the city fell away beneath them, Zyra looked at Elias, his face lit by the red glow of the suns. "You risked your life to protect me," she said softly. "Why?" He smiled tiredly. "Because where I come from, we protect the ones who stand with us." For a long moment she said nothing. Then quietly she whispered, "You really are impossible. Human." "Yeah," he said with a grin. "I get that a lot." The beginning of something new. The ship streaked through the atmosphere, leaving the burning skyline of Velthara behind. The Vraxian fleet would soon chase them, but for now they were free. Zyra leaned back in her seat, her heart pounding. She had defied her father, her people, and her destiny, all for a man from a distant blue world. But when she looked at Elias, calm and steady beside her, she didn't feel regret. She felt alive. "Where do we go now?" she asked. Elias looked out at the endless stars. "Anywhere that isn't here. Maybe somewhere we can start again." For the first time, Zyra smiled without her royal mask. "Then we'll start together." The ship vanished into the black of space. Two fugitives from opposite worlds bound by something neither had planned: trust. The stars stretched endlessly before them, black and silent, broken only by the streak of their stolen Vraxian scout ship. Captain Elias Ward and Princess Zyra leaned over the navigation console, plotting a course away from Velthara Prime. Every mile they gained from the planet was a mile away from safety. But for the first time in weeks, both felt a strange taste of freedom. The interior of the small ship was cramped, the hum of the engines filling the space. Elias was seated at a panel, checking the ship's systems, while Zyra stared out the viewport, her golden eyes reflecting distant suns. "We've got maybe 6 hours before they realize we're gone," Elias said. "Then it'll be a full-scale pursuit." She didn't respond immediately. "Do you really think they'll stop at chasing us?" she asked finally. "No," he said bluntly. "They're the Vraxians. If they want revenge, they'll chase us across the galaxy." Zyra's jaw tightened. "Then we'll have to be smarter, faster, stronger. They underestimate you. And that's their first mistake." Elias smiled faintly. "You're starting to sound like a soldier yourself." "I am a soldier," she said, voice low and steady. "But I've never seen anyone fight like you, Elias." He looked at her, noticing the intensity in her gaze. "You don't just admire my skill," he said quietly. "You respect it." Her eyes softened. "More than you know." The first hunt as the scout ship leapt into hyperspace, a sharp alarm echoed through the cabin. A holographic display lit up, showing a Vraxian interceptor fleet dropping out of warp. "They found us," Elias said, calm but alert. "Get ready." Zyra moved to the pilot seat. Her fingers danced over the controls, overriding Vraxian targeting systems with skills she had never used in combat. Hold on, she said, voice tight. The fleet closed in rapidly, sleek ships designed for speed and destruction. But Elias was ready. He scanned the fleet, noting weak points, calculating angles. They're fast but not coordinated, he said. We can outmaneuver them. Zyra shot him a questioning look. And how do you suggest we do that? He smiled, the calm precision of a human soldier taking over. Trust me. The interceptor fleet opened fire, plasma bolts streaking toward the small scout ship. Zyra twisted the controls sharply, evading shots with breathtaking agility. Elias guided her through the best path, pointing out clusters of slower ships to target. He took control of the tactical console, firing the ship's weapons with deadly accuracy. One interceptor exploded in a shower of sparks. Another collided with a third as Elias predicted the fleet's movements. Zyra watched in awe. You really are unstoppable, she whispered. I just know how to survive, he replied, and how to fight smart. By the time they broke through the fleet, their pursuers were scattered, some destroyed, some crippled. But Elias knew this was only the beginning. The distance between worlds. For the next several hours, they traveled through empty systems. Silence fell between them, but it was not uncomfortable. Instead, it was filled with unspoken understanding. Hera finally spoke. You've changed something in me, Elias, my people. We've conquered worlds, yes, but I never saw courage like yours until now. Not like this, he glanced at her. You mean more than fighting? You mean the way I don't back down? Yes, she said softly. Even against odds, we can't hope to win. You don't just survive. You inspire. Elias smiled faintly. That's a lot for one princess to say. I'm not a typical princess, she replied, her voice firm. I've seen the cost of conquest, the cruelty of my people. But you remind me there is another way. Their eyes met. The ship hummed softly around them, and for a moment, both worlds, human and Vraxian, had felt impossibly close. The ambush, just as hope seemed to stretch across the stars. The ship's sensors picked up another signal, faster, sharper, more deadly. The Vraxians were relentless. They're blocking the jump points ahead, Elias said, scanning the fleet. We need to fight through or be trapped. Zira's hands tightened on the controls. Then we fight. The Vraxian fleet descended like a storm. Plasma fire tore across the void. Explosions lit the dark emptiness as their scout ship weaved through attacks. Elias fired the weapons with unmatched precision, disabling one ship after another. Zira joined in, using her Vraxian combat knowledge to anticipate attacks and counter them. Together they were a perfect combination of instinct and strategy, human unpredictability and alien skill. One of the lead Vraxian commanders, a massive armored alien, opened fire directly on them. Elias studied the ship's movements, then shouted, "Follow my lead." He guided Zira in a daring maneuver, looping the ship behind the lead attacker. Using the ship's weapons, they targeted the command modules, causing it to spiral into the darkness. Zira laughed softly, the first time she'd truly felt exhilarated in years. You're insane. I'm human, he replied with a grin. We survived by being crazy enough to try. The emotional bond hours later, after the fleet was forced to retreat, they drifted in quiet space. Zira leaned back, exhausted but smiling. You really did it. You saved us both. Elias looked at her. I did it because you trusted me. Because we're in this together. Zira hesitated, then reached out, placing her hand on his arm. I never expected to feel this way about a human. But I do. You've awakened something in me I didn't know existed. Elias's blue eyes softened. And you've done the same for me. Most people see Vraxians as monsters. You're different. For the first time, they shared silence, not of fear, but of connection. Two beings from opposite sides of the galaxy, bound by trust and admiration. Zyra spoke finally. Where we go from here? I don't know. But I know this, I want to be with you. Whatever happens, Elias nodded. Then wherever we go together. A new purpose. As they traveled farther from Velthera, the reality of their situation became clear. The Vraxian Empire would never forgive betrayal. They would come for them with fleets and armies until the stars themselves burned. Elias turned to Zira. We need allies. Out there in the galaxy, there are worlds that hate the Vraxians. We can't just run forever. Zira's golden eyes flashed with determination. Then we will fight. And we will show them that humanity, and those who stand with it, cannot be defeated, Elias nodded. Exactly. And I'll make sure of it. She studied him, admiration shining in her eyes. You inspire more than courage. You inspire hope. Then it's a good thing we're not giving up, he said. The calm. Before the storm, as they jumped into another system, the stars stretched endlessly. The stolen scout ship hummed quietly, carrying 2 fugitives across light years of space. Elias plotted a course toward a hidden starbase where they could gather supplies, allies, and intelligence. Zira sat beside him, her hand resting on his shoulder. Elias, and when I first saw you fight in the arena, I thought you were just strong. But now I see. Strength isn't just muscle. It's courage. It's heart. And you have both. Elias smiled faintly. You're the first person who's ever said that to me without trying to kill me. She laughed softly. Then I suppose that makes me special. He looked at her seriously. You are, and that's why I'm not letting them take you. Zira's eyes softened. And I'm not letting them take you. For the first time since the arena, both felt safe, if only for a moment. The rising tension, but peace was fleeting. The Vraxian Empire would not forgive defiance. Fleets were being assembled, bounty hunters hired, and the galaxy itself was on alert. Elias knew what was coming. He turned to Zira. We've bought time. That's all. Soon they'll be back. And next time, they won't hesitate. Zira placed her hand over his. Then we will be ready, together. The stolen scout ship cut through the void, stars streaking past like silver fire. Captain Elias Ward and Princess Zira leaned over the controls, plotting the final leg of their journey. Behind them, the Vraxian Empire was in chaos. Fleets were scrambled, alert signals fired across multiple systems, and bounties were placed on their heads. Every warlord in the Empire had been ordered to capture the human and reclaim the princess. But Elias didn't flinch. They think they can stop us, he said, scanning the void. But they've never faced humans like me before. Zira's golden eyes softened. And they've never faced humans like you, Elias. Not with their courage, their unpredictability. Their heart, he smiled faintly. Then let's show them. The ambush in the nebula, their path took them through a dense nebula, the perfect trap. As the scout ship entered the cloud of swirling gas and lightning, sensors flickered. Something's coming, Elias said. The alarms began to blare. From the shadows of the nebula, sleek black Vraxian warships appeared, weapons glowing red. Zira gripped the controls. They've cornered us. This is it. Not if we fight smart, Elias said. Follow my lead. The chase began. Plasma bolts streaked through the nebula as the human and the princess weaved their small ship through jagged asteroids and gas clouds. Elias guided Zira with calm precision, predicting every enemy maneuver. One massive warship blocked their path. Zira's fingers flew over the controls, dodging attacks. Elias spotted weak points, engines, weapons, targeting modules, and directed her fire. With a precise strike, the lead warship's engines erupted. It spun out of control, colliding with another ship in a brilliant explosion of fire and metal. The other Vraxian ships faltered, giving them just enough space to escape deeper into the nebula. Zira laughed softly, a sound of relief and excitement. You're impossible, human. Elias grinned. And yet, here we are. Rallying allies after days of travel, they reached a hidden starbase in the outskirts of neutral space. Elias contacted human forces, sending encrypted signals to the Terran fleet. Meanwhile, Zira reached out to rebel alien systems, planets oppressed by the Vraxians, hungry for freedom. Within hours, a small coalition formed, humans, alien mercenaries, and dissident Vraxians who opposed the Warlord Council. Elias stood before them, the calm and steady center of a storm of anger, fear, and hope. Today, he said, voice steady, we fight not for conquest, not for glory, but for freedom. The Vraxian Empire believes we are weak. They think one human is nothing. We will show them that strength comes from heart, courage, and the unwillingness to give up. Zira stood beside him, golden eyes glowing. And I will stand with him, she said, her voice carrying across the hangar. For every being who has ever been oppressed. For those who cannot fight for themselves, the coalition cheered, ready for war. The final confrontation, the fleet moved toward Velthera Prime. The Vraxian Empire's armada was waiting, massive and overwhelming. But Elias was not intimidated. He had seen what humans could do when faced with impossible odds. Stick to the plan, he said, pointing to formations and weak points. Use hit-and-run tactics. We draw them in, divide them, and then hit their command ship directly. The battle began with a storm of plasma fire and explosions. The human-led coalition darted through the armada, striking and disappearing like ghosts. Zyra piloted the lead ship, her skills unmatched as she dodged and countered attacks. Elias fought in space and with strategy, his commands precise. Humans, aliens, and rebels worked as one, coordinated by his insight and leadership. The Vraxian High Warlord Thalrock watched from his flagship, fury burning in his eyes. "The human thinks he can defy me," he roared. "Destroy them all!" But even the most seasoned Vraxian soldiers could not match Elias's unpredictability. He led his fleet through traps, ambushes, and feints, systematically breaking the Vraxian lines. Boarding the warlord's flagship, finally, the coalition reached Thalrock's flagship. Elias and Zyra led a boarding team aboard the massive ship. Inside, the corridors were filled with alarms, guards, and chaos. "Stay close," Elias whispered. They moved silently, striking quickly. Every move was calculated, every blow precise. They reached the throne room where Thalrock waited, towering and armed. Zyra stepped forward. "Father," she said firmly, "this ends now." He laughed, a cruel rumbling sound. "You betray your people for a human. You dare defy me?" Elias stepped beside her. "It's not betrayal. It's justice." The fight began. Thalrock was powerful, but Elias's human agility, combined with Zyra's skill, allowed them to outmaneuver him. Every strike Elias delivered was calculated, aiming for joint locks and vulnerable points Thalrock hadn't expected. Zyra attacked with her twin blades, precise and deadly. Together they cornered the warlord. Finally, Elias leaped, catching Thalrock off guard. With a swift maneuver, he disarmed the warlord and pushed him to his knees. Zyra stood behind him, twin blades ready. "It's over," she said. Thalrock glared, breathing heavily. "You will regret this." "No," Elias said quietly. "You will remember what it feels like to be defeated, not by power, but by courage." Victory and change. The battle outside the flagship ended with the Vraxian armada retreating. The High Warlord's control was broken. Many of the Vraxian fleet surrendered, inspired by the bravery of the humans and rebels. Zyra took the throne, her father deposed but alive, exiled to a distant prison planet. Her first act as queen was to order peace negotiations, offering mercy to worlds that had been conquered, a gesture no Vraxian ruler had ever considered. Elias stood beside her as she made the declarations. He did not kneel, nor did he speak of conquest. He simply stood there, a human who had changed the course of an empire. The Vraxians watched, astonished, as the princess and the human united. The galaxy began to whisper about the unlikely pair, a human soldier and an alien queen, partners, equals, and symbols of hope. A new era weeks later, the coalition celebrated their hard-earned freedom. Zyra and Elias stood on the balcony of the newly rebuilt palace, looking out over a world that had once been ruled by fear. "You changed everything," she said softly. "We changed it together," Elias replied. Her hand found his. "Do you think humanity can really teach the galaxy what true strength is?" He smiled, eyes reflecting the stars. "They already have. All it takes is one person to stand against the odds, and one person to believe in them." Zyra nodded. "Then we will continue together." And as the twin suns of Velthera set over the horizon, they knew this was only the beginning, not of war, but of hope. A human had fought barehanded against impossible odds, and in doing so had shown an empire what courage, honor, and heart truly meant. Epilogue years later. Stories of Elias Ward and Queen Zyra spread across the stars. Humans and Vraxians trained together. Alliances formed between species once divided by fear. The empire that had once crushed worlds now stood united, led by a queen who had learned the true meaning of strength, and a human who had never stopped fighting.